Hello students, so today we will see theory part 2 of NCERT chapter 10, which is biomolecules. And today we are going to cover NCERT section 10.1.2.1. This is disclaimer. So let's see the objective of today's lecture. After attending this lecture, you will be able to explain. We will see the methods for the preparation of glucose. So you'll be able to explain the structure and preparation of glucose. Now for your reference, I have mapped the NCERT sections which we are going to cover today. So we will be covering 10.1.2.1, which is glucose. At last, we will summarize whatever we have studied in today's lecture. So let's start with introduction of glucose. So first of all, notice that glucose is an aldohexose. Okay, what does this mean? This means it is a sugar with 6 carbon atoms and it contains an aldehyde group. So the molecular formula is C6H12O6. That means it is made up of 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms and 6 oxygen atoms. So it is an aldohexose. So notice this is a structure of glucose. See the number of carbon atoms. 1, 4 over here. So 4 plus 1, 5 and 1, 6. It has an aldehyde group, which is CHO group. Okay, so this is a structure of an aldohexose, which is known as glucose. Now, glucose is found in both freely in nature in combined forms. For example, it is present on its own in some foods, but it also forms part of larger sugars like sucrose, maltose, and lactose. So if you'll see some natural sources of glucose, so it is specially abundant in sweet fruits, ripe grapes, and honey. So if you look at this figure, there are some sweet fruits. Okay, so you will see glucose are present in these sweet fruits. Okay, like ripe grapes and such kind of fruits. Now let us see the preparation of glucose. First, we will see how glucose can be prepared from sucrose. So sucrose is also known as cane sugar. So first we will see from sucrose. So to convert sucrose into glucose, we boil the sucrose with dilute hydrochloric acid or dilute sulfuric acid in an alcoholic solution. So the acid over here, which is dilute HCl or sulfuric acid, they act as a catalyst, speeding up the reaction without getting consumed. So this process is called hydrolysis. Okay, meaning you are splitting a molecule using water. So when we hydrolyze the sucrose, we get two products in equal amounts, glucose and fructose. Both are simple sugars or monosaccharides, and they have same molecular formula but different structures. Now if we look at the chemical reaction for this process, so you will see in this reaction we have a sucrose which is C12H22O11. It reacts with water, which is H2O, in presence of an acid like HCl or H2SO4 to produce glucose and fructose. Okay, so look, they have the same molecular formula. Okay, so you will see glucose and fructose are obtained in equal amounts. Now we will move on to the commercial method for preparing glucose. That is from starch, which is a commercial method. Now commercially, glucose is obtained by hydrolyzing starch. So hydrolysis, as I've told you, it means breaking down the long starch chain into individual glucose molecules using water. So to carry out hydrolysis, the starch is boiled with dilute sulfuric acid. So this acid, what does it do? This helps to break the bonds between the glucose units in starch. Now it is important to control the temperature during the reaction. So the mixture is heated to about 393 Kelvin, which is around 120 degrees Celsius. So this high temperature speeds up the reaction, but we need to be careful not to get too high. Okay? Otherwise, as a result, the glucose might decompose. So let us look at the chemical reaction for this process. So you will see in this reaction starch or cellulose, which is represented by this molecular formula, reacts with 1 mole of H2O in the presence of acid at a temperature which is 393 Kelvin and pressure between 2 to 3 atm. It produces N molecules of glucose. So if you'll see, N over here stands for the number of repeating units in the starch molecule. So this reaction shows how a complex carbohydrate can be broken down into a simple sugars like glucose. Okay, so this was from sucrose and from starch. Now we will talk about the structure of glucose. So notice that glucose can exist in an open chain structure. This means that the molecule is arranged in a straight line. So if you see, this is the open chain of a glucose. Okay, so we have 6 carbon atoms and we have one aldehyde group over here. So this is what represents the open chain of glucose. And this, if you write in more a condensed form, then this also represents the structure of glucose. So this is open chain form of glucose. Now if we're talking about the structure of glucose, first let's talk about that glucose has a straight 6 carbon chain. This means that all the 6 carbon atoms, they are arranged in a row and not branched. So first, when glucose is heated for a long time with hydroiodic acid, which is HI, so this reaction produces a compound which is called N-hexane. So N-hexane, this tells us something quite important about the carbon chain in the glucose. So hydroiodic acid, which is HI, it acts as a strong reducing agent in this reaction. This means it donates electrons to other molecules, helping to break down glucose and remove the oxygen atoms. So look at this particular reaction. So this is glucose. When you are doing a prolonged heating with hydroiodic acid, you get a straight chain of N-hexane. Okay, so you will see a reduction is happening over here. Okay, so see the 6 carbon atoms from glucose ends up in a straight chain which is N-hexane. Okay, so you will see this is reduction is happening over here. So this is formation of N-hexane. It has 4, 5 and 6 carbon atoms arranged in a straight line. So the formation of N-hexane from glucose confirms that glucose has a linear structure. Now we will talk about the presence of the carbonyl group. So if you'll see, when glucose reacts with hydroxylamine, okay, which is NH2OH, this reaction forms a compound which is called as oxime. Okay, so it reacts with hydroxylamine and it forms a compound which is called oxime. So oxime is created when the carbonyl group in glucose, it reacts with hydroxylamine, changing C double bond O group into C double bond NOH. Okay, so this is how it takes place. So if you look at this reaction, notice this is a glucose. When you react with hydroxylamine, you get an oxime. Okay, so if you'll notice the carbonyl group in the glucose, which is the C double bond O group in the glucose, it reacts with this hydroxylamine to form this C double bond NOH group. Okay, so this is the formation of an oxime. Now we'll see another reaction. When glucose reacts with hydrogen cyanide, which is HCN, it forms a compound which is called a cyanohydrin. Okay, so in this reaction, the carbonyl group in glucose, it reacts with HCN, resulting in the addition of a cyanide group and hydroxyl group to the carbon atom that was a part of a carbonyl group. So this is another way to confirm the presence of a carbonyl group. So if you look at this reaction, this is glucose. When it reacts with HCN, which is hydrogen cyanide, it forms cyanohydrin. So this carbon, which was the part of an carbonyl group, so this carbon is now attached to one CN group, one cyanide group, and one hydroxyl group. So when glucose reacts with hydrogen cyanide, it forms cyanohydrin. Okay. So by forming both oxime and cyanohydrin, we have strong evidence that glucose contains a carbonyl group. Okay. Now we will see the presence of an aldehyde group in the glucose, which is this CHO group. So when glucose reacts with mild oxidizing agents like bromine water, okay, so in this reaction, glucose is converted into gluconic acid. Okay, so this change tells that the aldehyde group in glucose is being oxidized in this reaction. Okay, so the oxidation of glucose with mild oxidizing agent like bromine water produces gluconic acid. So if you look at this reaction, this is a glucose. When it reacts with bromine water, it forms this gluconic acid. That means this aldehyde group has been oxidized to this carboxyl group. Okay, which is C double bond OOH. Okay, and we get hydrogen bromide. So this is the formation of gluconic acid. So the formation of gluconic acid from glucose, it clearly indicates the presence of an aldehyde group in glucose. Okay. Now we will see the presence of 5-hydroxyl group, which is OH groups. So what happens when glucose reacts with acetic anhydride? So this process is called acetylation. So when glucose is acetylated, it forms a compound which is called glucose pentaacetate. So this reaction shows us that all the 5-hydroxyl groups in glucose, they are available to react. Okay, so this is very important. It forms glucose pentaacetate. So notice that all the 5-hydroxyl groups in glucose, they are stable and each is attached to a different carbon. This means that the structure of glucose allows each hydroxyl group to react independently. So if we look at this reaction, we have glucose in which we have the hydroxyl group, 5 OH groups. Okay, when we reacted with acetic anhydride, we get glucose pentaacetate. That is, you will see that each OH group, 4 OH group from here and 1 OH group from here is being replaced by an acetate group. Okay, so look over here. Now we have 5 acetate. So now over here we have the acetate group over here. Okay, so all the 5 OH groups, they are stable on the different carbons. So the formation of the glucose pentacetate, it confirms that glucose contains 5 hydroxyl group. Okay, so this experimental evidence is a key step in understanding the molecular structure of glucose. Now we will see the presence of primary alcoholic group in the glucose. So what happens when we oxidize glucose? So if we treat glucose with a strong oxidizing agent like nitric acid, it gets converted into saccharic acid. So this reaction shows that glucose contains a primary alcohol group. Since only primary alcohols, they can be oxidized all the way to acids. Okay, so if you'll see in this reaction, we have glucose. When we treat it with a strong oxidizing agent, okay, like a nitric acid, this forms saccharic acid. So this a primary alcohol group, you will see this gets oxidized to acid. Okay, so you will see that both the aldehyde group and the primary alcohol group, so this is a primary alcohol. Okay, so both the aldehyde and the primary alcohol, they are oxidized to acid. So it forms saccharic acid. Now, similarly, if we start with gluconic acid and we oxidize it with nitric acid, we also get saccharic acid. So gluconic acid is just glucose where the aldehyde group has already been oxidized to carboxylic acid. So this reaction further confirms the presence of a primary alcohol group at the other end. So if you'll see, this is gluconic acid in which this aldehyde group is already been oxidized to carboxylic acid. When you treat it with a strong oxidizing agent like HNO3, you get a saccharic acid. So your primary alcohol is being getting oxidized to acid. Okay? So the formation of saccharic acid from both glucose and gluconic acid tells us that glucose has a primary alcohol group. Now, continuing with the primary alcohol group, now glucose does not give a positive result in a Skiff test, and it also does not form an addition product with sodium hydrogen sulfide, which is NaHSO3. So this result suggests that glucose does not have a free aldehyde group which is available for this reactions. Okay, so pentaacetate form of glucose does not react with hydroxylamine, which is NH2OH. So normally hydroxylamine, it reacts with free aldehyde or ketone groups. So this lack of this reaction tells us quite something important. Okay, so pentaacetate of glucose does not react with hydroxylamine. So if you look at this reaction, this is the pentaacetate of glucose. Over here you will see that this does not react with hydroxylamine. So over here you will see there is no reaction. Now we can say that glucose pentaacetate does not react with hydroxylamine, shows that there is no free CHO group or aldehyde group which is present. So this supports the idea that in this form, glucose aldehyde group is not accessible for the chemical reactions. Now we will understand the structure of glucose. So glucose can exist into two main forms depending on how its atoms are arranged in space. First is the open chain form, which is also known as Fischer projection form. Second one is cyclic form, which is also known as Haworth projection. Now first we will talk about open chain form, which is the Fischer projection. So Emil Fischer was the scientist who first described the exact special arrangement of the OH groups in sugars. So his work helps us understand how the position of these groups affect the properties of the biomolecules. Now, if we talk about D and L forms of sugars, these terms they are used to describe the orientation of the molecule in the Fischer projection. So the D and the L classification, this is based on the position of the OH group on the chiral carbon that is farthest from the aldehyde or ketone group. Now, what is a chiral carbon? It is one that has 4 different groups attached to it, okay, making it a center of asymmetry. So this position determines whether the sugar is D form or L form. Now, first we will talk about D configuration. So the OH group on the chiral carbon, which is farthest from the aldehyde or ketone group, is on the right side in the Fischer projection. So important thing is that OH group is on the right side. Okay. So when the OH group is on the right, the sugar is in the D form. So this is a standard convention in chemistry. Okay. That this D form tells us that the OH group is on the right side. Now D sugars, they are usually dextrorotatory, which means they rotate the plane polarized light to the right direction. So this property is measured in the lab and helps us confirm the sugar's configuration. So it is dextrorotatory in nature, rotates plane polarized light to right direction. Now this plus sign is used to indicate dextrorotation. Okay, so this is determined experimentally and this is used to denote dextrorotation. So if you look at this diagram, in this you will see this is a chiral carbon. Why it is a chiral carbon? Because it is attached to 4 different groups. One CHO group, one OH group, one CH2OH group and one H group. So in this carbon you will see OH is on the right side. So this is the D form. Okay, so this is glyceraldehyde and this plus indicates this is dextrorotatory. Okay, and this is determined experimentally. So this is D configuration. And when you give the priority, OH gets the first priority and hydrogen gets the least priority. Okay, so this is glyceraldehyde over here. Okay, and this OH on the right shows that this is D configuration. Now, we will discuss about L configuration. So in the Fischer projection, if the hydroxyl group, which is the OH group, on a specific carbon is on the left side, we call it as L configuration. Okay, so the sugar is classified being as an L form if the OH group is on left. Now sugars in the L form, they are described as levorotatory. This means they rotate the plane polarized light to the left, or we can say counterclockwise. Now this negative sign over here shows, this indicate that this is leftward rotation of light and this is determined experimentally. Now if you see over here, this is the L form, L configuration, because OH is on the which side? On the left side. So if this OH gets the first priority followed by CHO, then CH2OH and hydrogen gets the least priority. So this negative sign indicates that this rotates the plane polarized light to the left direction. Okay, so you will see this is L configuration. Okay, so now it must be clear between D configuration and L configuration. Now let us see D-L configuration of glucose. So D or L configuration in glucose is assigned based on the position of the OH group at carbon number 5, which is the 5th carbon atom in the glucose chain. Now if we talk about D configuration, here you will see that the OH group is underlined. You will see that the OH group on the lowest asymmetric carbon atom is on the right. Okay. If you'll see, this is the D form of glucose. So you will see over here, as I said, the position of the OH group varies at carbon 5. So OH group on the lowest asymmetric carbon atom is on the right side. So this is D configuration. And plus over here shows that it rotates the plane polarized light to the right. It is dextrorotatory. So this is D configuration. And this is a asymmetric carbon or the chiral carbon. Okay, because it has 4 different groups which is attached to it. Now, moving on, next we will see about L configuration. So in L configuration, you will see that the OH group on the lowest asymmetric carbon atom is on the left hand side. Okay, so if you look, this is L configuration of glucose. Okay, you will see that this OH group on this asymmetric carbon is on the left side. And this negative sign shows it rotates, it is levorotatory, that it rotates the plane polarized light to the left direction. So this is the L configuration, and earlier we saw the D configuration of glucose. Now, if we focus on D-glucose, then this is the form of glucose that is most commonly found in nature and it is the one our bodies uses for the energy. So if we look at the L-glucose, this is the enantiomer or the mirror image of D-glucose. Now what are enantiomers? Enantiomers have the same molecular formula and connectivity, but their structures are non-superimposable, just like a right and left hands. Okay, so if you'll see, this is the D-glucose and this is the L-glucose. So L-glucose is the enantiomer, the mirror image of D-glucose. So if we'll see, put a mirror in between, you will see we get the structure which we get is L-glucose. But remember, they are enantiomers, okay? They are non-superimposable, okay? So we can say that enantiomers, they are pair of molecules that are non-superimposable mirror images of each other. They have the same chemical formula and have same connections between atoms, but they differ in how they interact with the polarized light and with the biological system. Okay, so you'll see they have same connectivity. They are non-superimposable mirror images. Now we will talk about cyclic or Hobart projection form of glucose. So if you see, there are some specific issues with the Fischer projection. Even though it explained many properties, there were still some reactions and facts about glucose that didn't fit well. Okay? So, first notice that the glucose has an aldehyde group, but it doesn't give us a Skiff test. And it also does not form a hydrogen sulfide addition product with sodium bisulfite or NaHSO3. Next, the pentacetate form of glucose, it does not react with hydroxylamine, which suggests there is no free CHO or aldehyde group which is available. So this is another clue that the actual structure of glucose is different from what the Fischer projection show. So if we talk about the cyclic form, so glucose is found to exist in 2 different crystalline forms. Okay? First, if we focus on the alpha form. So the alpha form of glucose crystallizes when we cool a concentrated glucose solution at 303 Kelvin. So its melting point is 419 Kelvin. Okay? So if we look at the alpha form, this is the alpha form of glucose. Okay, you have to pay the attention to the hydroxyl group which is at carbon number 1. In alpha form, this hydroxyl group point downwards. Now look at the beta form. You will get the difference. So beta form crystallizes from a hot saturated aqueous solution at 371 Kelvin and its melting point is slightly higher, which is at 423 Kelvin. So this arrangement of atoms in the ring is just a bit different from the alpha form, but you will see small changes form a big impact. Now look at the beta form. Can you spot the difference between the alpha and the beta form? In beta form, the hydroxyl group on carbon number 1 is pointing upwards. You will see rest of the whole structure is same in alpha and beta form of glucose. There is just difference in the hydroxyl group at carbon number 1. In alpha form, hydroxyl group points downward, and in beta form, hydroxyl group point upwards. Now continuing, we will see about the hemiacetal formation. So the OH group at carbon 5, it attacks the aldehyde group and makes the cyclic form of glucose, alpha form and beta form. So see, as I told you, the OH group on the 5th carbon, it attacks this aldehyde group and it forms the cyclic structure. So this is the alpha form and this is the beta form. Okay? So you will see that this is alpha form, where on carbon number 1, we have OH group on this side, and in the beta form at carbon number 1, you will see OH group is in this side. Okay, so this attacks the CHO group and makes the cyclic form of the glucose. So this ring structure you will see is called a cyclic hemiacetal. So it is a 6-membered ring, which chemists often called as a pyranose ring. So if you'll see over here, this is the alpha D-glucopyranose. You will see at carbon number 1, the OH group is pointing downwards. And you will see this is a hemiacetal. Okay, why hemiacetal? Because in hemiacetal, at carbon, same carbon, you will see one group is a OH group and one group is an OR group. So you will see to this carbon, one is this OH group and one is this OR group. Okay, and this is the beta form in which at carbon 1, the OH is pointing upwards. And this shows the hemiacetal formation in which this carbon is bonded to one OH group and one OR group. Okay, that means OH group and OR group is present on the same carbon. That is hemiacetal. Okay, so this forms a 6-membered cyclic hemiacetal form of glucose. So this was showing it is a hemiacetal. Okay. Now moving on further, we will talk about a special type of isomers which is called anomers. So you will see that the two cyclic forms, that are alpha and the beta, the only difference between them is the position of the hydroxyl group at the first carbon atom, which we call C1. In the alpha form, the OH group points down, while in the beta form, it points up. Okay? So if you look, this is the alpha and beta form. So they are called as the anomers because they only differ in the hydroxyl group position at carbon number 1. In alpha form, OH point downwards. In beta form, OH points upward. So these are called as the anomers. Okay? Now we will see about the glucopyranose structure. So 6-membered ring of glucose is specifically called glucopyranose structure. So this name comes from its similarity to pyran, which is a basic chemical ring with 6 members. So if you'll see, this is a pyran, this is a ring with 6-member compound. Okay, so the 6-member ring of glucose is called glucopyranose. Okay, because this is an analogy with this pyran ring over here. So this is alpha D-glucopyranose and this is beta D-glucopyranose. Okay, just see they differ only in the OH positions at carbon number 1. Now if we talk about specifically alpha D-glucopyranose, so in this structure the hydroxyl group is attached to the first carbon, is positioned below the plane of the ring in the Haworth projection. So you will see that the OH group is present below the plane. Okay, so we have seen that the OH group is pointing downwards. Okay, which defines the alpha form. So the OH group is present below the plane. So if you'll see this OH group, this is present below the plane in case of alpha D glucopyranose. If we are talking about Haworth projection. Now if we talk about beta D glucopyranose, then the OH group on the first carbon is positioned above the plane of the ring in the Haworth projection. Okay, so this orientation is what it makes its beta form. So you will see that this OH group in beta D-glucopyranose, this is above the plane if we are talking about the Haworth projection. Okay. Now if we see about mutarotation. Okay, so let's see the concept of mutarotation. So mutarotation is the change in the optical rotation that happens when the glucose switches between a different isomeric forms in the solution. So you will see that alpha D glucose and beta D glucose each have their specific rotation values. Alpha D glucose has a specific rotation of plus 112 degree, while beta D glucose they have a specific rotation of plus 18.7 degree. So the mixture of both alpha D glucose and beta D glucose, they have a constant specific rotation of plus 52.5 degree. So this specific rotation doesn't jump instantly to its equilibrium value. It changes gradually until it reaches about plus 52.7 degree. So this gradual change is what we called mutarotation. And it shows how the two forms of glucose, they are constantly interconverting in the solution. Okay, so if you look, this is the open chain of this is open chain of the glucose, and they are interconverting in the solution, forming alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. So alpha D glucose has a specific rotation of 112 and beta D glucose has a specific rotation of plus 18.7%. Okay, so the specific rotation changes until we reach a equilibrium value, which is plus, if you'll see, this is equilibrium mixture value, which is plus 52.7. Okay, so this was about the mutarotation. Okay, so you will see that the alpha and beta forms, they shift back and forth, leading to the observed change in the optical rotation. Now let us summarize. So we saw the reactions of glucose. So this is what we saw, the reactions of glucose. So when glucose reacts with acetic anhydride, it forms glucose pentaacetate. That is 5 acetate groups gets attached. Okay. When glucose reacts with hydrogen iodide, we saw it forms N-hexane. That is 6 carbons are arranged in a straight line. Okay. And when it reacts with dilute HNO3, we will see it forms a saccharic acid. Both COH groups are present. When it reacts with hydroxylamine, which is NH2OH, it forms an oxime. When it reacts with bromine water, we will see that this forms a gluconic acid. Okay, we have a COH group and CH2OH group. When it reacts with hydrogen cyanide, we over here get cyanohydrin. That this carbon is attached to one CN group and one OH group. So these are the overall reactions of glucose which we saw. Okay, then we talked about open and cyclic forms of glucose. So this is the open chain and this is the cyclic form, which is the alpha and the beta form. In alpha form, at carbon number 1, OH is pointing downwards, which is below the plane. And in beta form, at carbon 1, OH is above the plane. That is, it is pointing upwards. So these are the open and cyclic forms of glucose. And this is alpha D-glucopyranose and this is beta D-glucopyranose. Okay, so thank you so much, students, for your attention. I hope this lesson was helpful to you. Thank you.